Hey guys, tonight we wake up face down in a sun-scorched land where the wind doesn't whisper, it scratches. You're half buried in fine, bitter sand, your mouth tastes like the bottom of a shoe, and your tongue might be trying to detach and walk off on its own. Welcome to the deadly desert. No water, no Google Maps, no iced latte. Just you, the sun, and the buzzards. You roll over with a groan, blinking against the painful glare of the sun already rising overhead. It's barely morning, but the heat? Oh, it's already offensive. Your breath catches on the dry air, lungs working like bellows in a furnace. Somewhere nearby, a scarab beetle scuttles by. Just a little guy doing desert errands. You're tempted to ask it for directions. You probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where and when you're listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your skin prickles as you sit up, brushing sand from your clothes. Somehow, during the night, a good inch of desert has decided to nest in your ears. Lovely. You cough, a dry sound like paper tearing, and blink again, trying to make out the horizon. It's flat, just a whole lot of flat. The sun climbs higher. You're no seasoned wanderer, at least not yet. But even you know what that means. Things are about to get dangerous. Midday in the desert isn't just hot. It's biblical. You stagger to your feet, all barefoot. Great. The ground is already warming into something between a griddle and the surface of Mercury. Every step you take is like a small crime against your own nerve endings. You hop a little. You hiss. You glance around, hoping to spot a Bedouin camp, a caravan, a random tent, even a mirage shaped like a vending machine. Nothing. Still, you're alive. Mostly. That counts. Now what? Rule 1, don't panic. That's not a survival tip. It's a full-blown lifestyle in the desert. Panic leads to bad decisions, and bad decisions. Those are just snack food for this kind of climate. Rule 2, use your brain before your body. Sprinting around in the sand wastes energy, dehydrates you faster, and makes you look like you're trying to audition for a one-person disaster movie. So, you try to think, where's the sun? East. The sun rises in the east. You squint, shading your eyes with a trembling hand. The light is brutal. It pours down in molten sheets, bouncing off the pale sand and lighting up your vision with spots and ghosts. You shuffle into the shadow of a small dune, temporary relief, and think about direction. Here's a historical tidbit. Bedouins were human compasses long before compasses existed. They read the desert like a book, one written in grains of sand and shades of wind. One 10th century traveler even described how a Bedouin guide could identify distant tribes just by the style of tracks they left in the sand. Your track, unfortunately, probably says something like, "Lost amateur, please mark gently." But hey, even modern soldiers have studied Bedouin navigation. In fact, during World War II, Allied forces in North Africa often relied on nomadic guides. These weren't guys with compasses. They were walking GPS units with better mustaches. One such guide famously led a whole squad of British troops through over 100 miles of uncharted desert, blindfolded. Historians still argue whether that part's true, but still, hardcore. You crouch and feel the sand, cool underneath. The trick is to move early before the sun turns everything to lava and find elevation. From a ridge or rocky outcrop, you might spot life. A road, a well, a goat, or if you're lucky, another human who hasn't died yet. Your throat is raw now. You'd trade your future firstborn for a sip of water. Sweat drips down your temples and evaporates before it reaches your chin. That's the desert for you. You sweat and it vanishes, taking precious hydration with it. No puddles, no sticky skin, just dry, all the time. Still, your eyes catch movement in the distance. A shimmer. Could be heat distortion or hope. You trudge toward it, step by cautious step. This is where the desert psychology kicks in. You start to hear things, voices, echoes. Maybe your third-grade math teacher whispering something about hydration ratios. She was weird. But more than that, you start to lose the line between what's real and what's just light, messing with your brain. A sudden gust of wind slaps your face. Sand peppers your cheeks, sticking to sweat and skin like a gritty exfoliator from a beauty line called misery. You duck your head, wrapping your arms over your face. This isn't even a sandstorm, just a warning shot. Now's when you wish you had a proper face covering. Bedouins didn't just wear those long, flowing robes and face wraps for style. The keffiyeh or gutra, depending on region, was critical gear. That fabric? It cools the head, shields the skin, and, fun fact, can be used as a rope, bandage, or even a makeshift water filter if you know what you're doing. You don't yet. You tear off your outer shirt, sorry fashion, and wrap it around your head. It's not elegant, but it works. The fabric dulls the sting of the wind and shields your face from direct sun. You look like a cross between a mummy and a very confused tourist. But it's a start. You keep walking. You crest a dune and pause. The shimmer again. Still out there. But now there's something new. A patch of darker sand patterned slightly like it's been disturbed. Tracks? You slide down the dune for a closer look. They're faint, but there. Camel prints, worn flat at the heel, wide, round. And there, those smaller ones. Goat hooves, maybe. Could be a small herd passing through recently. Could also be someone's supply line. You kneel, feeling the indentation, and smile for the first time all morning. That print? No more than a day old. You've got a lead. Of course, following tracks in a shifting desert is like chasing smoke through a wind tunnel. Still, your odds just went from absolutely not to, maybe. You push on. The sun rises higher. You start to hum, a trick learned from some documentary you half-watched once. Sound keeps your mind anchored, keeps panic from creeping in through the cracks. You hum a tune you don't remember the words to. It helps. Kind of. Suddenly, the breeze shifts again. This time it's cooler. That's not normal. You stop. Sniff. Is that moisture? You pick up pace, following the hint of humidity. It's faint, like someone spilled a glass of water 3 zip codes away. But in this place, even that means something. You clamber over another ridge, and there, tucked in the crook of 2 dunes like a secret, you spot it. A desert shrub, pale green and stubborn, growing out of the sand like it's got a vendetta. That kind of plant only grows where the water table is close. You grin. Dig? Maybe, but not yet. You're not desperate enough to dig up a spiky bush with your bare hands? Not yet. Instead, you mark the location with a stack of rocks, classic Bedouin move, and keep moving. If you can find the source, great. If not, you've got a breadcrumb trail back. A vulture circles overhead. You wave. Not today, buddy. Your lips crack. You slow. The terrain shifts, subtle but clear. Harder soil, less sand. Could mean a wadi, a dry riverbed. During flash floods, these turn into roaring streams, but most of the time, they're just dirt scars on the land. Still, a riverbed means a path, and paths mean people. You follow it, hoping, because in the desert, hope might be all you've got. The dry riverbed curves like an old scar through the belly of the desert, winding ahead in a trail of cracked earth and bleached pebbles. You shuffle along its edge, boots, or maybe bare feet, depending on how bad your morning was, scraping across the parched surface. Every step is a little crunch, a reminder that this place used to carry water. Used to. The air is syrupy now, not humid, nothing so kind, just thick with heat and silence. The kind of silence that doesn't comfort you but watches you. You feel it in your bones. If you don't find water soon, you're done, like sun-dried tomatoes, except less useful. Your tongue scrapes against your teeth like sandpaper, and the inside of your mouth feels like someone paved it over with plaster. The human body can survive 3 days without water, sure, but out here, under this sun, cut that time in half, maybe less. You don't have days. So, let's talk about finding water in a place designed to keep it hidden. You climb a dune, not for fun, but because your instinct is clawing at you. From the top, you scan the terrain. The shimmer's still there, but you've learned not to trust the light. What you can trust? Patterns, animals, plants, wind, and smell. A strange thing happens as you crest another ridge. A scent wafts up, faint, sweet, dusty, camel dung. And to your horror, you're happy about it. Why? Because where there's dung, there's camels. And camels don't just wander randomly. They go where there's water or where there's people with water. Historically, Bedouins relied heavily on animal behavior to locate resources. Camels, goats, birds, all part of the survival toolkit. And here's the trick. If you see birds circling during the day, especially small ones, they're likely near water or vegetation. You scan the sky. Nothing yet. But it's still early. You descend into the shallow wadi again. The soil here is more compact, cracked, but sturdy. You scrape at it with your fingers. Dry, bone dry. But then your eyes catch something miraculous. A tree. Not big. More like a collection of stubborn twigs pretending to be a tree. Still, it has green tips. It's an acacia, a tree known for thriving in harsh climates. And here's the wild thing. Its roots can dig over 100 feet down to reach water. Some Bedouins could dig small wells in areas like this, deep enough to reach a hidden seep, just enough to fill a goat skin. You drop to your knees and dig. You're not elegant, you're not fast, but you are desperate. And the sand, thank the heavens, starts to darken, just barely. A patch the color of old bruises. You press your palm to it. Cool. You keep digging until the sand starts clumping. Then you pause. A fringe trick. The cloth filter. Bedouins sometimes pressed fabric into damp sand overnight, wrung it out in the morning, and drank whatever drops emerged. Slow, but life-saving. You tear a sleeve from your shirt, press it in, and leave it for a moment. It's not ideal, but it's something. Meanwhile, your ears pick up a sound you've missed. Buzzing. Flies. Gross? Yes, but also, flies love moisture. You grin. If the flies are happy, maybe you'll be too. Let's talk about quirky historical hydration hacks. One obscure method involves stuffing camel stomach lining with crushed roots and burying it to collect condensation. Disgusting? Obviously. Effective? Marginally. You don't have a camel stomach yet, but you're starting to understand why someone would try. You pull out the cloth, wring it, and watch. 3 drops, maybe 4. Each one feels like gold. You lick your cracked lips and tip the fabric to your tongue. The taste is awful, like licking the bottom of a boot that ran through mud and regret. But it's wet, and it's your. You keep the cloth and mark the spot. Maybe if you survive the day, you'll come back tonight and press it again. Your next move? Keep moving, but smarter. You tie the damp cloth around your neck. Small moisture gain, small temperature drop. Everything counts. The trick in the desert isn't one big save. It's 100 tiny victories, like dew. You remember reading, maybe in a trivia article or a desert survival show that made everything look easier than it is, that some Bedouins would place cloths over rocks at night to collect dew, then wring them out at dawn. It sounds made up, but it's not. In some areas, dew can yield up to 1 liter a night. That's 1 entire soda bottle's worth of survival just by playing the long game. Historians still argue whether some tribes developed a kind of dew funnel, a cone of cloth positioned to catch and drain condensation into a hidden container. Ingenious, if true. Possibly exaggerated, but you'd believe anything right now. You wander further and spot a rock outcrop. Jagged, sun-bleached, and shady. Shade, the holy grail of desert travel. Not just for comfort, but because you cool down, you sweat less, and you lose water slower. The Bedouins understood this. They didn't sprint under the sun. They traveled at dawn, rested during the scorched midday, and walked again in the evening. You crawl into the shadow like a lizard, lay your head back, and close your eyes for a moment. Your brain still feels like a baked potato, but at least you're not cooking anymore. And here's something weird. Ancient desert travelers sometimes wore black robes. Yep, black. You think white would be smarter. But experiments have shown that loose black fabric can actually create air convection currents that lift hot air away from the body. If worn correctly, it's not the color that matters most. It's the airflow. Modern science backing up centuries of Bedouin fashion? You love to see it. Your rest is short, too short. The heat presses in again like a slow avalanche. Time to move. You spot something ahead. Low vegetation. Not a lush oasis. More like a depressed bush trying its best. Still, it's better than sand. Plants mean water. Maybe not drinkable, but maybe usable. You reach the bush and crouch. Thorny, tough, but its roots run deep. You tug at one root and lick your fingers. Bitter. Probably toxic. You don't risk it. Instead, you scan the base for beetles. Where there's plant life, there are often insects. And where there are insects, yes, ants. A small trail, barely visible, leads away from the bush toward a crevice in a rock formation. You follow them because why not? You followed worse leads today. And there, tucked in the cool, shaded crack, moisture. Just a smear. But again, you press your cloth to it. Wait. Collect. This is your life now. Foraging like a wild animal, scraping water from rocks like you're auditioning for a nature documentary called The Thirstening. You sip from the cloth. It's not much, but it staves off the headache, the spinning, the panic, and then you hear it, a sound. Not wind, not buzz. Drip. 1, 2. You press your ear to the rock. Dripping water, faint, rhythmic, somewhere inside. A seep, maybe. A crack in the earth where water condenses and escapes drop by drop. You have 2 options, dig or wait. Neither feels great. But you decide to mark this spot too. You're building a mental map now, a trail of crumbs and cloths and hope. You found moisture in 4 places. That's 4 more than you had when you woke up. And your odds? Improving. Barely. You rise, wipe grit from your mouth, and keep walking. Ahead, the landscape flickers, but this time not from the heat. A ridge, sharp, rocky, and maybe, just maybe, a cave. If there's a cave, there might be water. If there's water, there might be life, or something worse. But that's tomorrow's problem. The ridge ahead slices across the horizon like the jagged spine of some slumbering beast. You trudge toward it, your legs made of aching sandbags. Every step kicks up a puff of dust that clings to your skin like regret. The sun hangs overhead, now fully committed to its favorite hobby, roasting you alive. But something about that rock outcrop draws you forward. Instinct, hope, the fact that there might be shade and fewer beetles in your mouth. All valid. As you near the base of the ridge, your feet start to recognize the difference in terrain. The sand thins out, replaced by gravel and splintered stone. Sharp, brittle edges bite into your soles. If you had sandals, they'd be crying right now. But you push on, and there it is, nestled beneath a tilted slab of rock, a shallow cave, or maybe just a big dent in the side of the hill. Either way, it's shade, and that's better than a birthday party at this point. You crawl in and collapse, chest heaving. The temperature difference is instant. A drop of 5, maybe 10 degrees, but it feels like someone turned off the microwave you've been trapped inside. You press your cheek to the cool stone wall and sigh. Now that you're not actively melting, you take stock of your next priority. Protection. So far, you've been lucky. No sandstorms, no snakes, and your last hallucination only tried to sell you a timeshare once. But this is still the desert, and the desert isn't neutral. It's not just a place. It's a challenge. Out here, clothing is armor, not Kevlar, but nearly as important. You're starting to see why Bedouins didn't run around in tank tops. Their clothing was strategic, long, loose, and layered. Let's break that down. First, loose robes trap cooler air close to the skin, creating a protective buffer. The fabric moves with the wind, encouraging evaporation without direct sun exposure. Tight clothes, sweat traps, heat traps. Bad idea. Second, coverage means survival. Long sleeves, long pants, face coverings. Not because they were modest, though that played a part, but because every inch of skin exposed to the sun is a sponge for dehydration and cancer. And sand? Sand gets everywhere. If you've ever been to the beach and found grains in your shoes 3 weeks later, you have a tiny idea of what this is like. You tear another strip from your shirt and try to wrap it around your neck. Not exactly stylish, but hey, you're not here for Fashion Week. You're here to not die. The keffiyeh, or shemagh, as it's called in some regions, wasn't just for dramatic movie scenes where the hero stares moodily at the horizon. It had real functions: blocking wind, shielding eyes, protecting lungs. Bedouins mastered over a dozen ways to tie it based on weather, region, and even tribal identity. You? You manage something that makes you look like a post-apocalyptic dentist. But it works. Here's a quirky historical tidbit for you. Some Bedouins even lined their wraps with goat butter to keep skin from cracking in the sun. Practical and pungent. You sit up, lean against the wall, and start adjusting your makeshift garb. Every movement sluggish now, your energy's fading, but with your new shade and face covering, you've bought yourself a little more time. Time to rest. Your eyes flutter shut, but not fully. You keep one ear tuned for sound. You're not alone in this cave. Not yet. But maybe soon. Small caves like this are popular resting spots for animals. Some harmless. Others less so. Scorpions, bats, and yes, the occasional desert fox. You scan the edges. No obvious signs. A few droppings, dry and old. No nests. You exhale. But then a buzz, louder than a fly, more purposeful. You swat instinctively and just in time. A wasp. Great. Even the bugs out here are aggressive. Still, the cave holds. You lie back and let your thoughts drift to something else. Bedouin childhood. Imagine being born into this. No PlayStation, no tap water, just sand, goats, and an entire life designed around endurance. Bedouin children were trained from a young age to read the desert like you'd read a book. Wind patterns, cloud formations, the way your shadow bends at different times of day. One misread could mean death, but for them, it was second nature. Historians still argue whether their training was mostly practical or spiritual. Some sources claim every lesson came wrapped in folklore and myth, teaching not just survival, but values, resilience, humility, and fierce loyalty. You could use a bit of all three right now. After a short nap, you emerge from the cave. The sun is still brutal, but slightly lower in the sky. You wrap your cloth tighter and set off again, eyes squinting against the glare. This time, you walk with purpose. Every step is lighter, more efficient. You're learning, and then you spot it. A flicker on the edge of the horizon. Not a shimmer this time, but movement. Subtle, rhythmic. It takes a moment to register, but there it is. A figure, far off, dark, against the light. You freeze. Is it a person? A mirage? Something worse? You wait, shield your eyes, watch. It moves again. Slowly. Two figures now. Camels. People on camels. You stifle the urge to run toward them screaming. That would go over poorly. Bedouins value calm, respect. You don't want to be mistaken for a bandit or worse, a madman. So you do what they'd expect. You approach steadily, deliberately, head bowed slightly. No sudden moves. This isn't a reunion scene. It's a negotiation. As you close the distance, details sharpen. The lead rider wears a dark robe and rides side saddle, a long stick resting across their lap. The second leads a camel burdened with supplies, water skins, cloth bundles, something wrapped in fur. They see you. No one waves, no one smiles. It's not unfriendly, it's just desert etiquette. Out here, safety comes before manners. You stop several feet away, bow your head, wait, a pause. Then the lead rider raises a hand, a signal to come closer. And just like that, you're no longer alone. You take cautious steps forward, the crunch of gravel beneath your feet, the only sound between you and the camel-riding strangers. They're still as statues, eyes unreadable beneath cloth and shadow. The desert has a way of paring everything down, words, gestures, even expressions. There's no room for fluff out here. Every movement means something. The lead rider speaks first, voice low and gravelly, as if sand itself lives in their throat. The language is Arabic, but not the kind you might have heard on a city street. This is desert Arabic, laced with regional inflection, half-swallowed consonants, and an economy of words that would make a monk seem chatty. You don't catch much, just enough to realize they're asking who you are and why you look like you fell out of a sandstorm with zero planning. You point to your throat, then your cracked lips. Water? You rasp. A universal plea. The rider nods slowly, then gestures. The second rider dismounts, loosening the tie on a goatskin water bag hanging from their camel's side. It sloshes. That sound alone nearly makes you cry. But you remember something. Don't rush. Gulping water too quickly when dehydrated can make you sick, possibly worse. You take the skin with shaking hands, tip it gently, and let the first few drops soak your lips before sipping. It's lukewarm, slightly salty, possibly touched by the inside of an animal at some point. And it is, hands down, the greatest thing you've ever tasted. The Bedouins watch you. No judgment, just calm patience. After a few more sips, they wave you to sit beside their resting camels. Breakfast, it turns out, is happening, or rather, was happening. A small fire pit still glows with embers. On a cloth stretched across the sand sit a few humble items: dried dates, a flat round loaf of kubs, and something that looks suspiciously like goat jerky. They offer you a piece. It's tough, chewy, salted into the next century. You nod gratefully and gnaw. Welcome to desert breakfast. This isn't your average scrambled eggs and toast situation. No omelets here, no coffee shop lattes. What the Bedouins eat in the morning is what's left from the night before. Simple, dry, calorie-dense, and designed for long treks. Think minimal fuss, maximum fuel. Flatbread, for instance, has been a staple food for over 5,000 years. Archaeologists have found early versions of it even in ancient Egyptian tombs. And this one? It's smoky, cracked, and still warm from the embers. You can taste the ash. Somehow, that makes it better. Then come the dates, sweet, wrinkled, and surprisingly juicy considering the climate. Dates are practically nature's power bar, high in sugar, fiber, and potassium, easy to carry, easy to eat, perfect for the road. One medieval Arab scholar even called them the tree of life. And honestly, he wasn't exaggerating. The jerky is, well, an experience. Not unpleasant, just intense. It tastes like goat, salt, and survival. As you eat, your hosts remain quiet. Desert people don't waste breath. Speaking is reserved for necessity or poetry. And yes, poetry. One of the lesser-known facts about Bedouin culture is its long-standing love affair with verse. Entire tribal disputes were once settled with rhymed couplets. Historians still argue whether this poetic diplomacy actually prevented bloodshed or just postponed it. Either way, it makes for some beautiful insults. After the meal, the elder rider offers you a small tin cup filled with a steaming dark liquid, Arabic coffee. But not Starbucks style. This is kahwa, a spiced earthy brew made from lightly roasted beans, often laced with cardamom, clove, and sometimes saffron if someone's feeling fancy. You sip it and feel an electric jolt. It's not strong exactly, but it's sharp. The kind of drink that wakes up your ancestors. A quirky tidbit. The ritual of serving coffee in Bedouin culture is deeply symbolic. It's not just hospitality. It's a performance. Pour with the right hand. Serve the eldest first. Shake the cup to signal you're done. Get it wrong, and you might be considered rude, or worse, unteachable. After coffee, the mood shifts. The elder points to your makeshift face covering and mimes adjusting it. You try to fix it, but apparently you've tied it in a way that suggests confused scarecrow more than respected desert traveler. With a quiet grunt, he rewraps it himself. Firm, practiced, efficient. The transformation is instant. Suddenly, you're not just someone lost in the desert. You're someone trying to belong. And that counts. They gesture toward the horizon, the direction they're heading. Then to you, an invitation. You're not sure what awaits, but you nod. Because out here, company is safety. Before setting off, you help them extinguish the fire. Bedouins never leave a trace if they can help it. Pack down the ashes, cover the coals, smooth the sand, respect the land. It's not just habit, it's survival courtesy. Every clue left behind could be used by enemies or scavengers. Or worse, some poor soul who thinks the glowing embers are a good place to nap. The camels rise with groans and glares. You'd always imagined camels as chill, maybe even friendly. Nope. Camels are chaotic neutral. They judge you. They smell weird. And they have the unfortunate habit of sneezing in your face if you get too close. Still, they're the desert's greatest invention. Strong, stubborn, and capable of walking hundreds of miles with minimal water. Their feet, designed like nature's snowshoes, spreading their weight across sand to avoid sinking. Their nostrils can close against sandstorms. Their humps, not full of water, sorry, but fat storage, an energy reserve built in. You walk beside them, not yet allowed to ride. Earning that privilege takes time. The Bedouins watch to see how you handle the walk, the heat, the quiet. As you walk, you study the way your companions move. Slow, measured steps, posture loose but alert. Their robes flap slightly with each breeze, creating a cooling current. You adjust yours, mimicking them, and you listen. The younger rider hums softly under their breath, a tune older than any city you've seen. You don't understand the words, but you understand the feeling. It's not joy, not sorrow, just presence. It dawns on you that Bedouin life isn't about dominating the desert. It's about coexisting with it. Like dancing with a cobra, you respect its rhythms or get bitten. You're beginning to learn the rhythm. A mile or two in, the elder finally gestures toward a camel. Your turn. You approach cautiously. The beast gives you a side eye that says, "You? Really?" Mounting a camel is like trying to sit on a pile of angry luggage. First, the camel groans and folds its knees, lowering its belly to the sand. You swing a leg over too fast and nearly slide off the other side. The younger rider chuckles. You glare. Once seated, the camel rises in two sharp stages, back legs first, then front. You lurch forward like a drunken pendulum, clutching the saddle horn with both hands, and a prayer. But then, suddenly, you're riding high, swaying with each step. The horizon stretches endlessly ahead, and the wind feels cooler from up here. You've made it to the next level. Breakfast behind you, the day ahead, camels at your side. And for the first time since waking in the sand, you feel like just maybe, you got a chance out here. The camel lumbers forward with the grace of a creaky ship at sea, each step a long, swaying shuffle that rocks your whole body like a lullaby made of joint strain. You hold on tight, not because you're in danger of falling, although, yes, also that, but because the world looks completely different from up here. And now, direction matters. Because while the Bedouins don't rely on maps, at least not the kind you fold up and never refold correctly, they have one imprinted in their heads, a living, breathing compass written in sun, stars, wind, and instinct. And if you're going to survive, you'll need to start learning how to find your way too. No Google Maps, no compass, just the sky, the land, and your face, currently being exfoliated by sand-blasting winds. The elder rider reaches into his satchel and pulls out a thin stick. He pokes it into the sand and waits. No words, just a stare. You frown, glance at the stick, then at the shadow it casts. It's pointing, a little west of your current direction. That's the lesson. The sun is your first compass. You remember something vaguely from a documentary or a forgotten wilderness survival TikTok. If it's morning, the sun's in the east. Afternoon, west. You can use the length and angle of shadows to get your bearings, like a human sundial. So you do your best impression of a thoughtful explorer and nod slowly, like this is all very profound. The elder gives a faint, approving grunt. You grin, but then he hands you a small rock, polished, smooth, slightly magnetic. You frown again. Lodestone, the younger rider says softly. English? Sort of. He grins and points to the rock again. Ancient Bedouins didn't just use the sun and stars. They sometimes used natural magnetism, a rough compass of sorts. Lodestones, naturally magnetized minerals, were used centuries before the polished tools of the modern world. According to one historical account, early traders used floating lodestones in bowls of water to orient themselves, long before compasses as we know them existed. Historians still argue whether this was common across Bedouin tribes or just fringe folklore from certain regions. But even as a novelty, it shows how people have always chased north, with or without gadgets. You tuck the stone away. It's probably not very accurate, but hey, it makes you feel more like a survivor and less like a disoriented sand goblin. Now, the challenge becomes understanding the landscape itself. From up here on the camel's back, the terrain stretches endlessly in waves of beige and ochre, but your companions are reading it like a book. They're noting wind patterns in the dunes. They're watching the angle of the sun's reflection on the sand. They're tracking the way a certain plant grows at a slant, how some rocks are darker, possibly scorched by old fire pits. And then there's the wind. You hadn't noticed it before, but the breeze is consistent, always pushing slightly from the northwest. The younger rider ties a small cloth to the end of his stick and plants it in the saddle side. The fluttering strip becomes a wind compass. When the sun vanishes behind clouds or the stars are hidden by sandstorms, wind becomes the guide. The breeze becomes a road sign. You copy him, tying a rag to your own saddle post. The wind tugs at it gently, whispering something ancient in your ear. Probably, "Nice try, rookie." There's another trick, too, tracking the flight of birds. Migrating birds follow ancient paths that often align with trade routes and seasonal oases. You spot a group now, tiny black dots, flapping low across the horizon. The elder follows their path with his eyes. He doesn't smile, but his posture relaxes. You've learned something today. Birds mean direction. Direction means hope. Here's a quirky little fact to brighten your dehydration-fueled delirium. Some Bedouins believe that certain birds, especially swifts and shrikes, could sense oases even before the water was visible. Not scientifically proven, but enough to inspire a few old proverbs about trusting the wings before the wind. As your caravan moves slowly onward, the ground changes again. The sand gets paler, finer. It clings to everything, including your dignity. The camel grumbles, adjusting its path to avoid a sloping dune. The elder rider clicks his tongue, 2 sharp sounds, and the animal veers slightly left. Another trick. You realize now that camel herding isn't just hop on and hope. It's a full conversation. Clicks, hums, light kicks, even names. Your camel's name? Unclear. You've been calling him Jerky in your head, mostly because he keeps trying to bite your knee. You pass a ridge of blackened rocks, scattered like broken pottery. Volcanic debris, the younger rider explains in a rare moment of conversation. The region, long ago, was shaped by fire and tectonics, leaving behind fields of basalt and strange ridges that confuse both tourists and Google Earth. That's when you realize something else. Even if your tools fail, your eyes won't. You start noting how shadows fall against these rocks, how the ridges point in consistent directions, how the sand forms fans around them. The land talks, if you listen. Now, one of the most famous Bedouin navigation tools, especially during long migrations or raids, was the stars. You haven't gotten to use them yet. Too bright. But you're told that when night falls, you'll begin learning how to find direction from constellations like Ursa Major or Orion's Belt. That said, Bedouin star charts weren't just scientific, they were deeply poetic. The sky was full of animals, gods, lovers, and omens. And yes, there are different star stories depending on the tribe, with some using Venus as a sign of hospitality and others viewing it as a warning of bad luck. Historians still argue whether these constellations were used consistently across the Arabian Peninsula or evolved independently within each clan. What's clear is, if you could read the sky, you could find your way home. You're starting to feel the pull of that idea. Home, even if you're not sure where it is yet. As the afternoon fades, your camel slows. The elder raises a hand, signaling a pause. You dismount clumsily. Your legs feel like cooked noodles, and the ground greets you like an old enemy. The elder points to a small depression in the landscape, a low basin ringed with scrubby grass and a few wiry bushes. To the untrained eye, it's just more desert. But to the Bedouins, it's a campsite. The wind is calmer here. The basin blocks gusts and traps cool air. And, miracle of miracles, there's even a small pool. Not much. Murky. Probably frog-adjacent. But still, real water. You help gather dry brush while the younger rider starts a fire. Smoke curls into the air lazily, mingling with the scent of spiced coffee and dust. Dinner is more jerky, more bread, and something new. Labneh, a kind of strained yogurt rolled into balls and stored in oil. Tangy, salty. Basically, desert cheese. You like it more than you should. The elder says nothing, but watches you carefully. You chew slowly, meeting his gaze. You've followed sun, shadow, and wind today. You've stayed upright on a camel. You didn't cry even once. at least not out loud. All in all, not bad for someone who woke up buried in sand and regret. As the fire crackles and the sky dims, you realize you're learning the one skill that matters most out here: how to read the silence. The wind kisses your cheeks in a misleadingly gentle way this morning, soft, cool, almost refreshing. But then you stand, and your ankles sink half a foot into the sand, your knees buckle slightly, and the sun glints off the endless dunes like a billion angry mirrors. Good morning to you too, dessert. The camel snorts like it knows what's coming, because today you walk. The elder gestures ahead. The terrain is too steep for riding now, a spine of shifting dunes called the harshest, curling like ocean waves frozen in time. These dunes move, not metaphorically. They literally migrate with the wind over years, reshaping the landscape. You could climb one now and return next year to find it's half a kilometer east. And today, you're going to walk over them. Yay. Your boots sink deep with every step. There is no firm ground. The sand shifts and crumbles under you like powdered sugar on a broken treadmill. You try a normal pace. Mistake. 2 steps forward, 1.5 back. You start walking differently, more sideways, feet flat, knees slightly bent. That's when the elder corrects you with a wordless wave. He demonstrates the Bedouin way, walking soft. Small steps, weight distributed evenly. Don't stomp. Don't fight the ground. Let your feet float, skimming the surface like leaves on water. You mimic him, and slowly you start to sink less. Your calves burn like they've been insulted, but at least you're moving. Now imagine doing this for 30 kilometers every day. Bedouins didn't walk like tourists. They walked like whispers. Decades of practice honed their footwork so well that they could move silently even in the driest terrain, sneaking up on prey or slipping past rival tribes without a sound. One explorer in the 19th century described a Bedouin scout as part wind, part shadow. And while that's poetic, it's also annoyingly accurate when your own legs are screaming. As you crest a particularly dramatic dune, something catches your eye. A scorpion, pale, almost translucent, about the size of your palm and definitely having a bad day. It lifts its tail, its little face seemingly judging you. You freeze. The younger Bedouin from behind chuckles quietly and gently uses a stick to nudge the scorpion aside. It scurries off like an irritated librarian. Fun fringe tidbit. Some Bedouin tribes believed scorpions could be used medicinally, crushed and mixed into remedies for ailments like toothaches or insomnia. Don't try this at home. Seriously. But it's a reminder that out here, everything has dual purposes: danger and utility, poison and cure. The same bush that makes your throat itch could soothe a camel's stomach. The snake that frightens you might be a sign of water nearby. Maybe you walk on and the heat builds. It rises from the ground in shimmers. The sand beneath your feet feels like heated flour. Your boots are hot. Your socks are hotter. You begin to feel lightheaded. That's when the elder stops you and gestures toward your scarf. It's loose. You tighten it. A keffiyeh isn't just for style. It protects against heat stroke. Wrapping it properly, over the nose, across the forehead, down the neck, creates a pocket of shade, a microclimate between you and the blazing world. Plus, it keeps you from inhaling half the desert with every breath. You sip water, 1 capful, not too much. Bedouin hydration is a science. Frequent, tiny sips to avoid shocking your system or sweating it all out instantly. You learn that the hard way after your second big gulp leaves you feeling thirstier than before. Somewhere to your right, a shrill call splits the air, not a bird, a fox, or more accurately, a Ripple's fox. A small, sharp-eared desert trickster with a scream like a toddler with a megaphone. It doesn't approach, just watches, judging like the scorpion. The younger Bedouin makes a gesture. Keep walking. Predators aren't your problem today. The sun is. And the sand. Always the sand. Your heel sinks deep into a patch that feels looser than normal. As you pull back, the sand shifts in a ripple, like water. That's not normal. Turns out you've stepped near the edge of a sand pit, a shallow collapsed zone caused by wind erosion and unstable underlayers. Not quite quicksand, but still, it can trap a camel. You freeze again. The elder throws a stone nearby, small test, no collapse. He nods, changes course. Lesson learned. Don't assume all sand is equal. Some patches hide ancient erosion or buried animal dens, or worse, the remnants of sinkholes created by old floodwaters. Historians still argue whether the Bedouins mapped these danger zones through oral tradition or just keen observation passed down through trial and terrifying error. Either way, they know where not to step. You walk on. It's midday now. The heat is cruel. Your vision blurs at the edges. That's when you see it. Green. An oasis? No. A mirage. You squint. It wavers. The ground looks wet, reflective. Trees shimmer on the horizon. You blink. It's still there. Then, as you approach, it melts away into open sand. Mirages are optical illusions, light bending through layers of hot air. The result is a false image of water caused by temperature inversion, hot ground, cool air above. Your brain, desperate for relief, fills in the gaps. A trick, a cruel one. You laugh or wheeze, hard to tell. The younger Bedouin chuckles, not at you, but knowingly. He's seen this before. You sit for a moment. The elder lets you. There's no shame in pausing, only in panicking. He tears off a piece of dried date and hands it to you. Dates, nature's energy bar, rich in potassium, sugar, fiber, easy to carry. This single fruit has kept generations of Bedouins on their feet. You chew and feel a little less dead. You keep walking. Soon, the ground levels out into a wadi, a dried riverbed, broad and pale, strewn with smooth stones and fossil-like fragments. In ancient times, this place flowed with water. Now, it holds only clues. Here's your historical anchor. In many regions, wadis were the lifelines of Bedouin trade, offering the closest thing to roads in the wilderness. Caravans followed their curves like train tracks. If you find a wadi, you might find civilization, or at least a chance to survive. You follow it. The camel rejoins the group here, finding the going easier. You're grateful. You'll be riding soon, but not yet. The sun dips, finally. The air cools. A breeze rises, and with it, the smell of something unfamiliar. Smoky. Earthy. You approach a small rock formation and find carvings, petroglyphs, faint, worn by time, but still visible. Camels, hunters, stars, a human figure with arms raised. No one speaks. Even the younger Bedouin just stares. This is older than any living memory. Historians still argue whether these markings were tribal warnings, prayers, or just prehistoric Instagram. What's certain is they tell you this: people have walked here, struggled here, survived here, and now so have you. You collapsed next to a boulder, sand in your shoes, blisters on your feet, shoulders aching. But you didn't collapse. You learned how to walk without fighting, how to read the sand, how to listen to the wind. The elder nods once, barely a smile, but it's enough. You're not just surviving now, you're adapting. The camel makes a disgruntled snorting noise, like it's debating whether to forgive you for yesterday's blunder with the saddle strap. You avoid its gaze. Today, the terrain shifts again. The dunes soften into lower wind-pushed rises, and the air feels different, not cooler. Still feels like you're walking inside a hairdryer. But the wind carries whispers. Not sounds exactly, but signs. Something's out there. You spot them first. Hoof prints, half smudged in the sand. Not fresh, but recent enough. Not your caravans. These tracks have a strange rhythm, more staggered, spaced wider. They could belong to a goat herd or a small pack animal. Maybe donkeys? It's hard to tell in the ever-blurring sand, but the elder notices you squinting and gives a single approving grunt. You're learning. The desert may seem blank at first glance, but to the Bedouin, it's a canvas of movement. Every shift in sand, every overturned pebble, every oddly shaped tuft of brush is a message. That trail over there? Probably a fox. The half-circle marks near the ridge? A resting camel? Those small clawed scrapes in the dirt? Likely a sandcat, one of the region's elusive and surprisingly adorable nocturnal hunters. Fun fact, sandcats are known to meow like domestic kittens, which has tricked many a traveler into thinking help was nearby. Joke's on them. You walk on, following the hoofprints now. They lead to a fork, where three faint paths diverge. No signs, no markers, just dunes and instinct. The younger Bedouin drops to one knee. He brushes the sand aside gently, revealing an ancient shard of pottery, glazed with blue patterns and a chipped corner. It looks out of place here, yet somehow right. He taps it twice and mutters something. The elder nods. This is not just a track. This is an old trade path. Historians still argue whether these trails were carved by early nomadic tribes or if they simply followed animal migrations that shaped the earliest desert roads. Either way, the fact remains. You're now walking on an artery of survival, a route that once saw incense, gold, and silks cross continents. The Bedouins knew these trails intimately, not because they were mapped, but because they were memorized, recited like sacred poetry, and passed down through generations. They didn't need road signs. They had the stars, the dunes, and those unspoken hints left by the earth itself. Hours pass. The camel walks quietly beside you now, a moody companion. The landscape blurs into the same amber and ivory swirls, hypnotic in their sameness, until you see something odd, a bundle, small, lying half-buried near a cluster of stones. You approach cautiously. It's a leather pouch, cracked with age, the drawstrings hardened by sun. Inside, a few crumbled dates, a small carved wooden comb, and an iron pendant shaped like a palm tree. Someone dropped this, or maybe left it intentionally. Offerings and totems are common along desert routes, tokens of prayer or remembrance. The younger Bedouin frowns slightly, then reburies it with care. You don't ask questions and he doesn't explain. Sometimes respect means letting the sand keep its secrets. You march on, past stone outcrops that whisper of old shelters. One even has a faint blackened patch, soot on rock, evidence of an ancient fire. Someone camped here, not recently, but long enough to leave a mark that still endures. Suddenly, the camel pauses, its ears twitch. Something's ahead. You hear it too, a low, rhythmic bleating. Then, voices? You crest a rise and finally see them. A small herd of goats, some lazily chewing shrub roots, others napping in the narrow shade of a rock face. A man stands among them, wrapped in beige and green, his face half hidden by a scarf. His eyes squint toward you. The elder raises a hand in silent greeting. The goat herd doesn't wave back yet, but he doesn't reach for a stick either. Good sign. The Bedouin way is slow trust. You approach together, respectful, no sudden moves. The younger man murmurs something in a dialect you don't recognize. The goat herd responds. After a few sentences, a faint smile breaks across his face. You've been accepted, for now. He gestures toward a small tent at the base of the rocks. You duck inside. Cool. Blessedly cool. Inside is a low fire pit, unused at this hour, and bundles of herbs, oregano, thyme, even a few sprigs of attar, a fragrant desert mint used in teas and sometimes to keep insects away. There's also a rolled rug that might be older than you, with intricate knotwork depicting what looks like stars and lions. The goat herd offers you labneh, a thick, yogurt-like spread stored in a goat hide pouch. It's tangy, a little sour, and deeply welcome. Paired with dried olives and a crust of flatbread, it feels like a feast. He says little, but the glint in his eye suggests he's watching everything, weighing you. You hear about the wadi ahead, a dry riverbed with a slightly deeper channel. It floods occasionally dangerously, but it's also where water sometimes lingers beneath the sand. If you dig deep enough in the right spot, you might find moisture, even a trickle. Bedouins used to read the soil color and plant type to gauge where to dig, especially if you saw tamarisks or those scrappy salt bushes. As you prepare to leave, the goat herd gifts you a few twigs of dry wood. Precious stuff out here, where trees are nearly mythical. You offer a nod. In the desert, thanks is often silent. You rejoin your group and move forward into the wadi. It's wide, pale, and flat, a sun-bleached scar running through the dunes. Fossilized shells glint here and there, reminders that this region was once underwater, millennia ago, when oceans covered what is now a relentless furnace. Here comes your quirky tidbit. In some desert wadi systems, geologists have found whale fossils. Imagine that. Standing here, sweating buckets, and realizing a 60-foot sea creature once swam past the very spot your camel just peed. You march onward, following the trail. A faint groove in the sand hints at an older path, perhaps for carts or camel trains. You start to notice little markers left behind. Stone piles, odd-shaped cairns, even pieces of shell arranged deliberately. These are signposts, part of a secret language of navigation. Only the desert savvy can read them. The elder explains with a gesture. 3 stones stacked in a triangle means safety. 2 in a line? Keep going straight. A broken triangle? Turn back. Sometimes a camel bone stuck upright in the sand serves as a warning, maybe of predators, bandits, or worse, a dry well. Even now, you know better than to ask too many questions. In the desert, some information is earned or inherited. By late afternoon, the trail begins to rise slightly. Another ridge looms ahead, and with it, a man-made wall. Not a building, just a wall of stacked stones, shoulder high, ancient, possibly Nabatean, possibly older. Historians still argue, why was it built? To mark a border? Pen animals? Shelter travelers? Theories abound. But its presence means one thing. You're walking along a known, possibly sacred route. You rest beneath it. The shade is brief, but enough. The camel sighs beside you. You both know you're not far from camp now. But your feet? They beg to differ. Sand has infiltrated every possible crevice. You've worn through one sock. You're sunburned in places you didn't know you had skin. But you made it through another day. You didn't just wander blindly. You tracked. You followed the signs left by man, beast, and wind. You weren't just surviving. You were reading the desert. And somewhere behind you, your footprints already begin to vanish. The desert doesn't roar. It whispers. It waits. Then it bites. The sun crests again over the dunes, a searing coin in the sky. You slept, barely, and only after lying awake listening to the endless hiss of the sand brushing the outside of your blanket like dry fingers. You wake up tense, even before anything happens. It's a survival reflex now. You're learning that out here, stillness is never safe. Stillness can mean the scorpions waiting, the winds shifting, or worse. Something is watching. You stretch, brush sand from your eyelids again, and try to shake the dream of a lizard with 10 legs laughing at you. No, wait. It was laughing. You're not hallucinating. Not yet. Breakfast today is a hasty smear of soft cheese and a shard of dried fig, paired with yesterday's water ration. It tastes like optimism and disappointment. The elder doesn't say a word as he scans the horizon. Something in the air has him frowning. You mount the camel, which groans like a cranky elevator, and head out early. The wind is sharp today. There's something different in the way it moves. Faster, with erratic bursts that throw the sand into short-lived cyclones. Tiny dust devils dance across the flats like spirits late to a festival. By midday, the terrain shifts again, and not in your favor. The dunes are taller, sharper-edged, wind-carved into steep ridges with teeth. The Bedouins call this area a desert jaw, because one wrong move and the land will chew you up. You pass the skeletal remains of a goat, half buried, ribs like picket fences, not an unusual sight. But the marks on the bones? Those are from teeth, large ones. Your gut twists a little. Predators still roam here. Fun fact. Arabian wolves, smaller than their northern cousins, have adapted perfectly to the desert, traveling miles without water, scavenging from caravans, and, in rare cases, following lost travelers. Like you walk faster. The sun climbs. So does the danger. You pause to adjust your keffiyeh, tightening the fabric across your mouth. The wind is really kicking now, and with it, the sand stings harder. The younger Bedouin gestures toward a nearby rock outcrop. It's jagged, with narrow crevices. Perfect snake real estate. Great. You detour. And that's when you see it. A hole in the sand. Circular, neat, and perfectly still. You stop. Instinct kicks in. The elder freezes too. Nobody speaks. That's a trapdoor spider's lair, one of many. These creatures construct perfectly camouflaged burrows, their silk-covered doors flush with the sand. They wait inside, sometimes for months, until prey stumbles by. Then snap, a burst of speed, venom, darkness. Like a horror movie in miniature, you step around it. Then another, a field of them. You start to feel like you're walking on a landmine field designed by an arachnophobic demon. After an hour of high step, sand-sifted stress, the camel stops cold and won't move. That's the only warning you get. Just ahead, near a cluster of low shrubs, the sand moves. Like it's breathing. You stare, then blink, then realize what you're seeing. A horned viper. Tiny, pale, coiled beneath a thin veil of dust, only its eyes and horns above the surface. Its tongue flicks once. You don't move. The elder does, not fast, not slow, just precise, lobbing a small rock off to the side. The viper strikes at the sound and vanishes into the scrub. It's a reminder. The desert isn't empty. It's just quiet about it. You press on, now skirting the scrub zone with renewed caution. Every bush is a potential house of horrors. Every rock could have a tail under it. The young Bedouin laughs under his breath. Not at you. With you. Probably. Because here's the truth. Danger in the desert is rarely loud. No lions roaring or crocodiles snapping. It's all stealth, patience, subtle traps, except when it's not. Later that afternoon, you hear something. A shrill, grating sound. A whine? A growl? You can't place it. Then, from behind a low dune, you spot it. A caracal, crouched and watching. Its black, tufted ears twitch. It's sleek, built like a dancer, and it's not interested in you, at least not yet. Caracals are wild cats known for their acrobatics, leaping 10 feet in the air to snatch birds out of flight. You try not to make eye contact, which is awkward because it absolutely is making eye contact with you. The camel snorts and keeps walking. The caracal vanishes. The Bedouins don't comment. They've seen worse. You reach a narrow pass between two stony ridges. The wind funnels here, whistling through like a haunted flute. You duck your head and hurry. That's when the wind shifts again, and suddenly you can't see. Not an exaggeration. The sandstorm arrives without warning. The sky turns yellow, then orange, then a flat gray. The wind screams like it's insulted. You drop to your knees, wrap the keffiyeh tighter, and squeeze your eyes shut. You hear the elder shout, muffled, urgent. You follow blindly, crawling now. Your hands sink into the sand. It's like moving through dry snow, but it burns. You find the camel's leg and latch on. Together, you push toward a rock overhang, low, sharp, imperfect, but it blocks the worst of the wind. You huddle there, gasping through the cloth, tasting the grit in your teeth, eyes streaming. It lasts maybe 20 minutes, feels like hours. When it passes, the sky clears like someone opened a curtain. The world reappears. You're half buried, your skin scoured pink, your water flask full of sand, but alive. Barely. Here's your quirky tidbit. In ancient times, desert nomads sometimes used crocodile dung mixed with clay to smear over their exposed skin during sandstorms, supposedly to block the wind and cool the skin. No one knows if it worked or just smelled bad enough to distract them. Historians still argue. You stagger up, spit, taste sand again. the camel is somehow cleaner than you. Of course, you brush yourself off and keep walking. Later that day, you spot a flash of movement near a dune crest, something lizard-shaped. You catch only a glimpse, but it's unforgettable. The desert-horned lizard, also called the blood-squirting lizard. It puffs up when threatened and, yes, seriously, can shoot blood from its eyes up to 5 feet. It's a defense mechanism. Also, the stuff of bedtime stories for desert children and actual nightmares for everyone else. You blink, it's gone. You'd think that was the most dramatic encounter of the day, but you'd be wrong. Because just before dusk, you hear laughter. Human laughter. You stop. So does the elder. You all crouch low. The laughter comes again from the other side of a rise. You crawl up slowly and peer over. 3 men, not Bedouin, dressed in modern clothes, jeans, one with a sports cap, laughing beside a battered truck. Their eyes are wrong, their body language tense. They're not happy campers. The elder gestures silently. We leave fast. You double back, this time carefully disguising your tracks with a wide brush of dried palm leaves the younger Bedouin carries for exactly this purpose. You don't look back. Later, in the safety of camp, the elder finally speaks. Some dangers, he says softly, are not born from sand. You nod. The desert is deadly, but people are unpredictable. You curl up that night inside your blanket, shivering despite the lingering heat. Your thoughts are a whirl of venomous fangs, bloody-eyed lizards, and that too loud laughter in a place where laughter shouldn't exist. Still, you survived another day. You've learned how to listen to the silence, how to see the hidden things, how to move when the land moves against you. Out here, survival isn't strength, it's awareness. And right now, you're more aware than ever. You wake up to the smell of smoke, not the scary kind, the kind that says breakfast is happening. A pan sizzles faintly on a pile of coals, and one of the Bedouin men, the quiet one with the permanently raised eyebrow, is flipping flatbread like it's an Olympic event. You earned a bite this morning after surviving yesterday's horror show of spiders, sandstorms, and blood-squirting reptiles. You're officially promoted from useless desert tourist to mildly tolerated liability. You chew slowly. The bread's warm, slightly charred, and paired with a smear of honey. Actual honey. A delicacy. You ask where it came from, and the young Bedouin grins. Wild desert bees, tiny, aggressive, and prone to hide in their hives and cliffs you absolutely shouldn't climb. Someone risked their neck for this breakfast, and it wasn't you. You glance around camp. The wind has calmed, and there's a low-energy humming in the air, almost like anticipation. The elder wraps his turban tighter than usual. The others pack up quickly. No lingering. You ask where you're going, and the answer is short. Market. Now that gets your attention. A real desert market, deep in the middle of nowhere, built where old caravan routes cross like secret veins under the sand. You're not entirely sure this is a good idea. You've barely mastered water rationing and snake dodging. Now, you're about to wander into a cultural minefield where everyone knows what they're doing, and you don't. The sun climbs as you travel, and hours later the wind shifts, carrying sound, distant voices, hooves, the bleat of goats, and the jangle of metal. Then the smell, spices, sweat, camels, and something distinctly herbal. The desert opens up, and there it is, the bazaar. No neon signs, No stalls, just tents and rugs and people, dozens of them, gathered around low fires and shaded awnings. Some ride in, others are already arguing over textiles. This isn't a place for tourists. This is a trader's meeting point, where deals are made in low voices and sharp glances. You dismount. Instantly, you feel out of place. Your boots are wrong. Your posture is wrong, and you're definitely carrying your water flask in a way that screams, "I've only just learned camels have moods." But you try to blend in, shoulders back, sand face on. A man approaches you, older, mustache like a broom, skin dark and cracked like desert rock. He greets you in Arabic. You freeze, then smile. He squints. You say hello back in broken syllables. He raises an eyebrow. You're blowing it already. He asks if you want to buy something. That's what you think he says. Or maybe he asked if your camel's for sale. You nod. He lights up. Oh. Now, he thinks you're selling the camel. You wave your hands, panicking, point at your face, then the camel, then shake your head. He laughs, a deep, wheezing laugh, and walks off, shaking his head. Great start. The young Bedouin slides up beside you and whispers, "Don't talk unless you have to. And if you talk, never answer fast." Why? Fast means desperate. Noted. You watch him walk toward a spice trader and begin negotiating, slowly. They don't just name prices. They circle each other. They ask about families. They pretend they don't want what they clearly came to buy. The game is beautiful. You want to try. Bad idea. But you do it anyway. You spot a stall with small trinkets, bone carvings, colored beads, a brass compass that probably doesn't work, and a few ancient-looking coins. You kneel beside it and pick up a ring, rough silver, set with what looks like a greenish piece of glass. "Jade," the vendor says, young, eager, probably lying. You squint at it. It's chipped. You shrug and make a soft noise. He grins and starts the performance. He names a price. You look offended. He laughs. You counter. The ring is probably worthless. But the game, oh, it's glorious. You go back and forth like this for 5 minutes, and finally he slaps your shoulder and agrees. You hand over a few coins, unsure what you've just spent. The elder appears out of nowhere, looks at the ring, looks at you, says nothing. You have a feeling you just bought a goat wedding ring. Still, you wear it. You walk the market more confidently now, ears tuned to the sound of bartering, long phrases broken up by pauses, sighs, laughter, silence. You realize silence is a weapon here. The best traders say nothing and let the other person squirm. One trader waves you over to show you a dagger with a jeweled hilt, a jambia. You admire the curve of it, but you're not foolish enough to ask the price. These weapons are ceremonial, passed down generations. In some tribes, a boy's first jambia is more meaningful than his name. Here's your historical fact. In many Bedouin communities, ownership of a jambia marked a man's social status. Some blades were hundreds of years old, and tribes judged the hilt's material, not the blade itself. Rhino horn being the most prestigious, though now banned in most regions. You smile, nod politely, and back away before you accidentally offer your ring in trade. Next up, you watch a camel auction. Yes, that's a thing. Traders size up the animals like used cars, checking teeth, eyes, legs, even temperament. One camel refuses to stand. Another spits at the highest bidder. You feel seen. Nearby, a man pours tea, black and scalding hot. The aroma cuts through the heat. You're offered a cup. This is kahwa, coffee technically, but made with cardamom and no sugar. You sip. It tastes like sand and fire, but in a good way. The elder nods approvingly. This is a sign of trust. You're being slowly folded into the experience. Then tension. You hear raised voices. Two traders locked in a dispute over livestock or a broken deal. One accuses the other of cheating. Hands gesture. The crowd hushes. No one draws weapons, but everyone watches. The shouting stops. The elder steps forward. He speaks 3 words, slow, commanding, ancient. Everyone backs down. Just like that, the heat drains out of the situation. The elder walks away. You stare. What did he say? You ask the young Bedouin. He said, "My tent remembers." You blink. That's it? He nods. In Bedouin culture, memory is law. An insult, a kindness, a deal. It's all remembered, passed down, retold. No written contracts. Just people who remember. For years, for generations. Here's your quirky tidbit. Some families keep oral historians. Members trained from youth to memorize events, marriages, betrayals, even the patterns of cloud movement before important meetings. It's like having a walking hard drive wearing sandals. You browse a little more, then regroup with the others. A man with a hawk on his arm nods at you. The bird blinks. Falconry is serious business out here. Falcons are trained, revered, and occasionally fed better than people. Some are worth thousands. You try not to make eye contact. You've had enough predators for 1 week. By sunset, the market dissolves, just as it formed. Tents collapse, traders pack up, camels grunt, dust rises, and like smoke, it all drifts away. You mount your camel, your ring on your finger, the taste of kahwa still on your tongue, and something strange in your heart. You feel accomplished, like you survived something, because you did. In this world, trading isn't about goods. It's about reading people, feeling tension, knowing when to speak, and when to stay silent. You didn't get robbed. You didn't accidentally insult anyone. And the camel came back with you. That's a win. As the stars begin to bloom in the sky and the cold rolls in, you ride in silence. The elder finally speaks. "You haggled like a lost goat," he says. You smile. Coming from him, that might be a compliment. The desert is oddly quiet tonight. Too quiet. You're tucked beneath your blanket, the scratchy wool pulled tight, your body still buzzing from the chaos of the market. You close your eyes, stomach full, back sore, camel grudgingly parked nearby like a furry, grumbling SUV. But then it starts, a strange rustling in the wind. Your eyes snap open. It builds, low and distant, like the growl of a sleeping beast. The ground vibrates. Tiny particles tap at your face. You sit up. The wind hits your cheeks, sharp and rising. The young Bedouin appears at your side without warning. "Up now." "Why?" He doesn't answer, just yanks you to your feet and points at the horizon. A shadow swells in the distance, amber, rising, swirling. Then you realize it's not just wind, it's a sandstorm. You don't move. You've heard of these things, sure, maybe seen a few in movies, but this is not special effects. This is an actual wall of moving death, and it's headed straight for you. The elder yells something in Arabic. Everyone springs into action. The camels are tethered tighter, the tent ropes double knotted, blankets shoved into bags. No one is panicking, but no one is wasting time either. You try to help. You mess up. Someone rips a steak from your hand and pounds it incorrectly. Another Bedouin hands you a cloth, your keffiyeh, and makes you wrap it tight around your mouth and nose. You fumble. He tightens it for you, jerking your chin upward. Don't breathe through your mouth, he warns. You'll be chewing sand for a week. Then he disappears into the flurry. The storm hits seconds later. The air becomes solid. You blink and grit rakes your eyelids. You squint until your eyes are slits. The wind doesn't howl. It screams. Sand stings your skin like a million tiny knives. It pours into everything, ears, armpits, under your clothes. You cough, then regret it immediately. Your teeth grind like a pepper mill. Breathing is a battle. Your scarf is soaked with spit, but you don't dare pull it down. You crawl into the low shelter the Bedouins erected, a temporary windbreak built from thick blankets and canvas poles. It's barely a meter high, but somehow it works. Inside, you huddle with 3 others, backs pressed to the cloth, knees jammed into ribs. The world outside roars, and here you are, packed like a poorly ventilated human sardine, trying not to panic. Want a fun historical fact to distract yourself? Here you go. In ancient times, caravans would often anchor themselves during sandstorms by literally lying down and covering their camels with blankets soaked in water or urine. The idea was that the weight and dampness kept them grounded while the wind tore over the top. Yes, it worked. No, you don't want to try it. You wonder if your camel is okay. You peek through a slit in the fabric. Bad move. A blast of sand slaps you full in the face. You jerk back, muttering something unrepeatable. Someone snorts. Even in this chaos, the young Bedouin finds you hilarious. But here's a lesser-known tidbit. Some tribes considered sandstorms divine punishment or omens of change. In certain folk beliefs, the wind carried the whispers of jinn, spirits of fire and air, who stirred up storms to warn or curse. You're not saying you believe it, but the way this storm moves, like it has a mind of its own, yeah, you could be convinced. You lose all sense of time. Minutes, hours, you nap, maybe. You think you dream. You definitely drool on your sleeve. But the wind doesn't stop. It waxes and wanes like a living thing. Every now and then you feel it push against the fabric like it's trying to get inside. When the worst of it finally passes, the silence is startling. You step out. The world is unrecognizable. Your camp is half buried. Everything has shifted. Blankets, bags, even the camel, who, to be fair, seems entirely unimpressed, wears a layer of sand. It's as if someone dumped flour across the planet. The sky is pale blue again, cloudless, and everything smells scorched, dry, earthy. You cough and rub your arms, your skin coated with grit and sweat. Someone hands you a water skin. You drink. Slowly, your tongue tastes like a pottery shard. You laugh, despite yourself, because you made it. You survived a sandstorm. Well, barely. You collapse onto a pile of rugs, limbs jelly. The elder walks by and drops a sarcastic, "Good morning." You raise a dusty hand in mock salute. The others go back to work like it's nothing. Fixing lines, shaking out blankets, repacking gear. Because, for them, it is nothing. This is just Tuesday. And that's the craziest thing. What felt like the end of the world to you is just part of life for them. Sandstorms are normal here. Which brings us to a quick scholarly debate. Historians still argue whether the Bedouin migration patterns were more influenced by resource scarcity or environmental unpredictability, like sandstorms. Some scholars believe these tribes moved primarily to follow grazing patterns and water sources. Others argue that destructive weather events forced sudden rerouting and long-term changes in settlement behavior. In either case, they learned to move. You're learning too. After the cleanup, the group gathers for tea again. Somehow, in this dust-blasted world, there's still time for calm. You sit cross-legged, sip the hot, bitter drink. Let the heat center you. One Bedouin casually points out that the last storm was small. You stare at him, slack-jawed. He shrugs. Real storms? You can't see your hand. Great. So, that wasn't even the bad one. You're brushing sand out of your ears for the next hour. You feel it in your eyebrows, in your socks, in your dreams, probably. One of the camels sneezes directly onto your blanket, and you don't even flinch anymore. The young Bedouin leans over and says, "You'll want to keep your mouth shut next time." You nod. He adds, "Also, no offense, but you smell like a sandbag." Charming. But he offers you a spare scarf, and that's basically a desert apology. As the day fades into evening, the temperature drops, and the sky bleeds orange across the dunes. Your body aches. Your lips are chapped. You can't tell if your skin's tanned or just permanently sand-blasted. But you feel different, like you're made of tougher stuff now. The desert will do that. It beats you up, then asks you to thank it. You lie back on a rug, using your pack as a pillow, and close your eyes. Somewhere nearby, the elder hums a tune. The storm is gone, but the story lingers. You wake up freezing. Your nose is numb. Your fingers curl stiffly under the folds of your blanket, which, despite your best wrapping efforts, has done an absolutely terrible job of keeping the cold desert night at bay. You shift slightly and feel a bit of frost. Or is that dew on your cheek? Either way, it's way too cold for a place that almost killed you with heat just hours ago. Welcome to the desert paradox. Burning by day, freezing by night. You sit up slowly, breath misting in the air. The sand glitters under the starlight like someone spilled powdered sugar mixed with crushed glass. Silent, still, beautiful, and bitterly, ridiculously cold. You rub your arms and mutter to no one in particular, "How is this even the same place?" The young Bedouin, because he is apparently always awake before you, grins through his scarf and tosses you a second wool wrap. "You look like a dying lizard," he says. "You look like a desert raccoon." You shoot back, a laugh, that rare, real kind. Still, there's no fire. The group is huddled under thick, layered covers, sharing body heat and quiet conversation. Fire, you remember, is a luxury out here. The smoke gives away your position, and dry fuel isn't easy to find. Besides, even in this bitter chill, most experienced Bedouins seem to just endure. You, however, are a modern creature. Your joints ache, your lips are splitting, and you would absolutely commit minor crimes for a heated blanket right now. Still, you pull yourself upright. You need to get moving, because night in the desert isn't just uncomfortable, it's active. The wind whistles low, the sand shifts, and someone laughs far away or right behind you. You freeze. It wasn't a human laugh, not quite. More like a broken hiccup made by a coughing ghost. Hyena, someone says. You whirl around. Was that supposed to make me feel better? He shrugs. So, add that to the list. Hyenas, jackals, foxes, the occasional wolf, and if you're truly lucky, wildcats. They're all night hunters, and you, my friend, are in their playground now. But here's the weird part. Despite all that, it's not the animals that people fear most after dark. It's the stories. You're offered a cup of tea and sip it slowly, hoping the warmth might reach your toes. Around you, the others speak quietly in Arabic, their eyes darting across the dunes. You catch a word you've heard before. Jinn. Now let's be clear. Jinn, plural of jinni, are not cartoon genies. They're pre-Islamic spirits woven deep into Bedouin belief systems. Neither angels nor demons. There's something in between. Invisible, capricious, sometimes helpful, often hostile. And the desert? That's their domain. According to tradition, the desert at night is thick with them. They live in ruins, lurk in whirlwinds, hide inside wells. Some are just mischievous. Others are something else entirely. You shift a little closer to the fireless circle. Someone starts telling a tale, half-whispered, slow, about a man who wandered too far from his tent one night and returned years later, unchanged, eyes cloudy, mumbling in a language no one understood. Another speaks of a voice that calls your name in your mother's voice, asking you to follow it into the dunes. You do, and are never seen again. You try to smile. Just stories, right? A few chuckles. One man crosses himself, but no one answers. Historians still argue whether these stories of jinn emerged as psychological safeguards to keep people from wandering off, to explain strange deaths, or to enforce social cohesion. Others believe they stem from the Bedouins' deep intimacy with the land, attributing personality and power to places no human could fully understand. Either way, you are not taking a solo midnight stroll. For now, you're huddled next to a camel who, blessedly, radiates heat like a grumbling furnace. You consider hugging it. The camel considers biting you. It's a fragile truce. Here's something quirky. Ancient Bedouins sometimes used charcoal rubbed on the soles of the feet as insulation. Weird? Maybe. Effective? Also maybe. You try it. Your socks are now filthy, but you feel marginally warmer. Placebo? Possibly. Survival hack? Absolutely. As your body adjusts to the chill, your ears tune in to the strange soundscape of the desert at night. The wind hums. The camels snort and occasionally groan like haunted cellos. Somewhere far off, a series of barks echo, then a long rising cackle. Hyenas again. You hunch deeper into your scarf. Someone begins to hum a lullaby. It's in a language you don't know, but it's gentle, grounding. You lie back against your pack, staring up at the sky, and oh, what a sky! No cities nearby to wash out the stars, no airplanes, no satellites, just a velvet canopy of stars so vivid they almost pulse. It's not like looking at the sky. It's like falling into it. Your breath catches. You could spend a lifetime under this sky and still not understand it. The person beside you murmurs, "That one is Orion." You nod. "I know that one." He points again. "And that is Suhail." You blink. "Suhail?" "Yes, you call it Canopus. But to us it's Suhail. When it rises, we say winter has ended. It's true. In Bedouin tradition, The appearance of certain stars marked the turning of seasons, vital for planning migrations. Suhail in particular was considered so important that some tribes even used it in naming conventions and oaths. The stars weren't just decoration. They were a calendar. You lie in the sand and trace constellations with your finger in the air, each one a breadcrumb leading you deeper into history. And yet, the cold bites again. You shift closer to the camel, its size. You decide you're friends now. Sleep comes slowly. Your thoughts are a blend of stories and shadows, myths and murmurs. The night here isn't just dark. It's thick. It presses in. It makes you confront things you usually drown out with phone screens and fluorescent light. You think of the jinn, of the man who vanished, of the voice in the dunes, and you close your eyes just a little tighter. Tomorrow you move again, deeper into the sands. But for now, you pull the blanket tight, lean your cheek against your new camel buddy, and let the desert sing its eerie lullaby. Don't worry, you're still here. For now. The moment your eyes open, you're greeted by the low indigo glow of a desert just before dawn. That perfect moment when night hasn't fully left, but the sun is making quiet promises behind the dunes. And thank the stars you're waking up, because last night, that was unsettling. Between the hyenas, the jinn stories, and your camel making unholy groaning noises in its sleep, you didn't think you'd survive the darkness with your sanity intact. But here you are, mostly intact, slightly sand-covered. You sit up slowly, rubbing warmth into your hands, and glance at the sky. And that's when you notice it. The stars are still there, faint but visible, shimmering like tiny holes poked in the heavens. One in particular catches your eye, bright, low, and glowing almost yellow-orange. That's Suhail, your Bedouin companion says without looking. Still watching, you nod, remembering the conversation from last night, and you realize, out here, stars don't just sparkle for aesthetic. They matter. They mean direction. They mean survival. You're about to begin learning the ancient art of navigating by the stars. Now, let's be clear. You are not suddenly becoming an expert navigator. You are a desert rookie. But the Bedouins? They've been doing this for generations, using the stars as a kind of celestial GPS long before satellites, compasses, or smartphones with 3% battery and no signal. The first thing they teach you is that in the desert, true north isn't just a concept, it's a matter of life and death. Get lost out here, and it might be days before someone finds your bones. So, they start with the North Star, known here as Al-Jadi. It's not the brightest in the sky, but it's loyal, holding steady in the northern sky while all the other stars spin around it like they're stuck in some eternal celestial dance circle. Finding it means you can orient yourself. Travel at night. Avoid walking in huge dehydrated loops, which statistically is what most lost people do. Yes, even you, especially you. You squint. It takes a minute, maybe 5. You're not proud. But eventually, yes, there it is. Fixed, constant, silent. And suddenly, the desert doesn't feel quite as confusing anymore. Then, you're introduced to another desert favorite, Orion's Belt. 3 stars, perfectly aligned, like buttons on an invisible shirt. To the Bedouins, Orion was sometimes linked with warriors or hunters, depending on the tribe. His belt points roughly east to west, an axis line for your journey. And just beside him, twinkling mischievously, is Sirius, known as Al-Shira. Now, here's a wild little tidbit. In ancient Egypt, yes, just across the Sinai, the heliacal rising of Sirius was used to predict the annual flooding of the Nile. It's that important, that reliable. Historians still argue whether Bedouin navigation techniques influenced neighboring civilizations, or vice versa. But what's clear is this: everyone trusted the stars. You stand, stretch, and look up again. It's dizzying, honestly. So much space, so many points of light, each one a direction, a signal, a secret code. You're shown constellations with names you've never heard in English. Alpharkadane, the two calves. Aldebaran, the follower. Some stars mark trade routes. Others signal seasonal shifts. A few are known only in oral tradition, handed down from elder to child around glowing fires and cooling tea. It's humbling, like learning to read again, but the letters are burning thousands of light years away. As you begin to walk with the group, early before the sun fully wakes, you keep your eyes to the sky. Occasionally, someone asks you a direction. You guess. Sometimes you're right. Usually, not. But you're learning. Keep the wind on your left, one man says. But it changes. He grins. So don't trust it. Point taken. The stars, though, those you can trust. Mostly until the sun rises. Because when it does, the stars vanish, burned away by the ferocious light. And you're left navigating with other tools. Landmarks, shadows, animal behavior, your own half-broken intuition. Still, that time before dawn, that's your golden hour for guidance. And even though your feet ache and your lips are cracked again, you feel grounded, connected to something ancient. You pause at a ridge. Behind you, miles of sand stretch endlessly. Before you, more dunes roll toward the horizon. But above you, there it is again. Suhail, still there. The Bedouins nod. Good omen, one says, means the day will be long, but the sky will protect you. You're not sure what that means, but you believe him anyway. Here's a quirky fact. Some Bedouin tribes believed certain stars had personalities. Sirius was proud, Canopus was wise, and Rigel, Yad al-Jawza, was unlucky unless it rose on a Tuesday. Superstitions? Maybe. Or maybe just a deeper relationship with the night than modern city dwellers can imagine. You take another sip of the sweet cardamom-scented tea and glance upward again. The stars are fading now, swallowed by that ruthless blue desert sky. But you feel different, more confident, less lost. You still can't name more than 7 stars reliably. But that's 7 more than yesterday. And out here, that's called progress. You walk on. The sun is coming. And the desert waits. The sun is high again. You're back to squinting, sweating, and rethinking your life choices as usual. Your feet feel like 2 bricks wrapped in sandpaper. Your water supply is hanging on by a thread, and the idea of walking another step makes your legs threaten to unionize. But then you hear it, a grunt, then another, and then that unmistakable, otherworldly gurgling that sounds like someone gargling marbles through a bass amp. Camels, the true desert royalty. And right now, possibly your only shot at not having your skeleton featured in some future archaeologist's forgotten traveler exhibit. You crest a dune, and there they are, lumpy, lofty, and lounging in the sand like they own the place, which, frankly, they do. A group of 6 camels, some chewing lazily, others blinking with the indifference of seasoned commuters on a Monday morning. They're tied near a small Bedouin camp, goat hair tents, a crackling fire, and 2 men sitting cross-legged, sipping tea like nothing about this 120-degree day is remotely abnormal. You approach slowly, respectfully, because let's be clear, Bedouins don't just give you a camel. You have to earn it, or trade for it, or beg in a way that preserves at least 11% of your dignity. And besides, camels aren't cars. They have personalities. And most of those personalities fall somewhere between grumpy librarian and retired war general who doesn't like being touched. A young man, maybe your age, stands up and sizes you up, then gestures toward the closest camel. You ride? You open your mouth to lie, but before you can form words, the camel lets out a sound like a bagpipe dying in a tunnel. You flinch. The camel glares. No, you admit. He grins. Good. She hates liars. Her name, you're told, is Zahra, which means flower. It's clearly ironic. Zahra is enormous, all elbows and attitude, with a thick brown coat and eyes that radiate contempt. She's kneeling, legs tucked beneath her like a fuzzy ottoman, but the look on her face says, "Go ahead. Try it. I dare you." The young man, let's call him Faisal, gives you a crash course in camel diplomacy. First rule, you don't climb a camel. You wait for the camel to allow your existence. Second rule, hold tight. The mount is not graceful. Third rule, never stand behind it, ever, unless you enjoy surprise dental surgery. You place one hand on Zahra's thick neck and hoist yourself up into the worn saddle. It smells like leather, dust, and a hint of something ancient. Maybe pride, maybe camel farts. Zahra snorts. Then she moves, more like erupts. Front legs shoot up first, launching you backward, then her back legs straighten, catapulting you into an upright position with all the grace of a toddler on a trampoline. You cling like a koala in a hurricane. Faisal laughs. Good, you didn't fall yet. You're riding a camel now, a real one, in the desert. And suddenly, walking feels like a distant, unnecessary nightmare. Here's something wild. Camels can travel 100 miles without water, store fat in their humps, not water, that's a myth, and have special eyelids that function like natural sunglasses. They're basically biological tanks, evolved specifically to crush the desert with a casual saunter. And Bedouins, they've relied on them for centuries. Camels were central to ancient trade caravans like those that crossed the Arabian Peninsula on the incense route, transporting frankincense, myrrh, and spices to the Mediterranean. That's right. Camels weren't just beasts of burden. They were economic engines. Historians still argue whether the Arabian camel, dromedary, was domesticated in Central Arabia or further north. But one thing's certain, without them, civilization here would have collapsed, and Zahra knows it. You settle into her rhythm, a kind of rolling side-to-side sway like being rocked by a giant, hairy ocean wave. At first it's nauseating, then strangely hypnotic, calming even. Faisal rides beside you on a slimmer, lighter camel he calls Bark. Lightning. Bark is fast, sleek, definitely the favorite child. You ride for hours, covering ground you couldn't have walked in a day. The wind feels cooler up here, your legs ache less, and you begin to appreciate why camels are called ships of the desert. There's a moment, quiet, surreal, when you and Zahra crest a high dune and the whole desert spreads out below, golden, silent, infinite, and you feel it again. That sense of timelessness, that maybe, just maybe, you're part of something bigger. You pat Zahra's neck. She growls. Progress! Here's a quirky little nugget. Some Bedouin believe certain camels are lucky, capable of finding water by instinct. These water finders are never sold, only passed down. Some claim they dream of oases and wake leading their riders straight to hidden springs. Is it true? Who knows? But you swear Zahra just glanced west, snorted, and picked up speed. You don't question it. Later, you dismount, awkwardly, and nearly eat sand again. But Zahra lowers you gently. On purpose? Hard to say. But it feels like mutual respect. Faisal offers you tea and smiles. You ride again tomorrow. You nod, because you've learned something vital today. The camel doesn't just carry your body. It carries your hope, your history, your only real shot at making it to that ever-distant, maybe not even real oasis. And if Zahra believes in you, well, that's good enough. You wake to the faint, rhythmic sound of chewing. It's Zahra, of course, grinding her breakfast cud like an elderly woman with zero interest in morning conversation. She glances at you once, then returns to her eternal, meditative chew cycle. You sit up, stretch, and glance west. Today's the day. You've been hearing whispers for 2 nights now, quiet murmurs over firelight and tea, speculation spoken like myth. There's water ahead, real water, an oasis. And while you've learned not to get your hopes up in the desert, remember that puddle that turned out to be a mirage in some suspiciously wet camel spit? This time, it feels different. Your Bedouin companions are walking with purpose this morning, tying headscarves tighter, packing extra cloth to drape over the camels, double-checking their gear. You do the same. Zahra stands without complaint, which is unnerving, frankly. The sun is already pushing up, gold and ruthless. But you ride anyway, Zahra gliding across sand with the indifferent grace of a queen used to her throne. And slowly, painfully, beautifully, the dunes begin to change. They flatten. The wind carries not just heat, but hints of moisture, impossibly faint. The air smells greener. There are patches of dry grass, a few determined shrubs. A bird, a real one, flits overhead. You're close. And then, like something out of a storybook you once read before bed, you see it. An oasis. Not a mirage, not a trick of the light, but an actual shimmering, palm-framed, water-glinting miracle in the sand. It's not huge, nothing dramatic. Just a calm, shallow pool surrounded by date palms, their fronds rustling like old paper, with a small crescent of shade at the far edge. There are other travelers here, too. Another Bedouin family resting their herd, women filling leather skins with water, children playing near the edge under the tired eye of an elderly man with a falcon on his wrist. You dismount, legs wobbly, face coated in salt and dust, and then you taste the water. It's not icy or flavored or filtered, but it's liquid life, cool, real, precious. No one speaks for a while. Here's a fact. In pre-modern Arabia, oases were the lifeblood of civilization. Towns, trade routes, Even entire tribes revolved around these pockets of water and shade. Caravans planned around them. Wars were fought over them. Marriages arranged to gain access. They were power. Historians still argue whether some of the region's most famous oases, like Al-Aqsa, were developed independently by Bedouin clans or shaped by early agricultural settlers. Either way, they represent one thing above all: possibility. You sit under the palms, drinking slowly, letting your body cool. Someone offers you a date, chewy, sweet, sticky. It's like energy in fruit form. You've never tasted anything better. You eat 5 more. Zahra is lying down nearby, legs tucked, eyes half closed in satisfaction. She deserves it. You close your eyes and listen. There's laughter, chatter in soft Arabic, the trickling of water over a carved stone trough, a palm leaf rustling. And for the first time since your waking nightmare in the desert began, you feel safe. Here's a fringe tidbit you'd never guess. Some oases had their own microeconomies and tribal neutral zones, spaces where enemies could water their herds under unspoken ceasefires. Imagine that, surrounded by weapons and grudges. But if you're at the oasis, nobody stabs anyone. It's a truce made by thirst, and you get it now. No one owns water out here. Not really. It's too sacred, too necessary. By late afternoon, you're lying in the shade, eyelids heavy. The world feels slowed, protected. This is your reset button, your little moment of eternity. But here's the thing, you can't stay. No one does, not for long. The desert doesn't allow it. This isn't a hotel or a happy ending. It's a checkpoint, a kindness, and soon you'll pack up, climb back onto Zahra, and disappear into the dunes again. But now you breathe. Now you remember why people risk everything to survive this place. Not for comfort, but for these perfect fleeting moments. Just you, the shade, the water, and the quiet promise of life in the deadliest place on earth. You leave the oasis at dawn, not because you want to, because you have to. The desert doesn't let you linger, not even in paradise. The air is crisp again, dry as ever, and tinged with that familiar trace of sunburn waiting to happen. You pull your keffiyeh tighter, adjust your robe, and mount Zahra, who rises like a drama queen being asked to work weekends. But she walks, and that's what matters. You're not heading back, not yet. There's something else the Bedouins want to show you, a place the maps don't show. Something ancient, something lost. For hours, you move in silence, the dunes shifting under Zahra's feet like rolling waves. It's hot again, but not unbearable. The kind of heat that dares you to keep going. The kind that peels away the layers of comfort and laziness you didn't know you still carried. Then, as the sun hits its brutal noon arc, you see it. Stones. Not like the random rocks scattered by wind and time. No, these are deliberate, stacked, shaped. Ruins. And not just any ruins. They stretch wide and low, half swallowed by sand, what looks like an abandoned caravanserai, or maybe even a temple. The walls are worn, edges softened by centuries, but still stubbornly standing. There's a strange circular structure in the center, open to the sky. Its walls are decorated with faded carvings, camels, palm trees, crescent moons. No one speaks as you approach. This is a place of memory and of mystery. Faisal gestures for silence. You step through a broken archway and feel it. The temperature shifts. The wind quiets. Time sort of holds its breath. Some believe the Bedouin ancestors used sites like this as ritual centers. Others think they were seasonal shelters for caravan traders where they'd rest and worship. Historians still argue whether this particular architectural style hints at Nabatean influence, the people who built Petra, or if it predates even that. Either way, it's clear people once lived here, or passed through enough to leave their stories etched into stone. Inside the central ring, you find shards of pottery, a piece of glazed tile, a single worn sandal strap. Human stuff, mundane, precious. Faisal breaks the silence. This was my great-grandfather's place, he says quietly. He brought water here, dug a well, traded with passing caravans. You look around again, more carefully. This wasn't just a stopover. It was a home. It hits you. The desert doesn't just swallow the living, it preserves them. Every grain of sand is a page of someone's story. And this entire journey, you've been walking through a history book written without ink. You help clear some sand from a buried stone slab. There's a mark, a symbol, and below it, the shallow bowl of what used to be a fire pit. Maybe this was where they sat at night, told stories, watched the stars, ate, laughed. Maybe they looked out at the dunes, just like you are now, and thought, we made it, at least for today. Here's a quirky little detail. Some Bedouins believed ancient ruins like this were haunted by jinn, not evil ones necessarily, but watchful spirits who remember what humans forget. It's why certain places are never touched, never rebuilt, out of respect, out of caution, out of the unshakable sense that you're not entirely alone here, and you feel it, a tingle in your spine, a soft pressure in the air, but not fear, just reverence. You sit quietly by the slab, sipping the last of your cooled tea, while Zahra lies down nearby, letting out one of her dramatic sighs. The sun starts to sink again, and golden light bleeds across the ruined stone. There's no rush, no reason to move, just this. You, a camel, and a pile of ancient rocks holding on to their last whispers of memory. And now, you are part of it too. The sky softens, bleeding from gold to pink to indigo. Stars blink awake, one by one, lazily pushing through the twilight like shy performers before a show. You're wrapped in a blanket now, not for cold exactly, but for comfort, for the soft weight of fabric when everything else is wind and sand and silence. Zahra breathes steadily beside you, her great humped shape a warm presence in the dark. The fire crackles low, barely more than embers now, and the tea is gone. But your belly is full, your body sore in the best way, and your mind finally quiet. You lean back, eyes tracing constellations, and in that moment, without any effort or announcement, you feel it, peace. The real kind, not from escape, but from arrival. You survived, you listened, you adapted, you endured. The desert didn't destroy you. It reshaped you, stripped you down to the essentials, taught you to trust the wind, the stars, the camel beneath you, and the ancient paths others walked before you. And now, here at the edge of history, the world hums soft and slow. You exhale. The stars shimmer. The sand cools. And the night welcomes you gently into sleep.